Good to see you, OKX.
Good to meet you.
How are you today?
Good, doing great. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. I want to ask you a few questions.
Sure.
Can you actually tell me what do you think is the long-term potential of Bitcoin? And do you think Bitcoin can become a global reserve currency one day?
I think that's a great question. You're in the right place and asking the right people. I fundamentally believe in the technology that supports Bitcoin. And as a store of reserve, we're starting to see a lot more adoption across the world. And as you think about where the next wave of Bitcoin adoption will come from, it will start to come from larger governments. It will start to come from more and more central banks. And I do believe over time, we will see Bitcoin becoming a sort of certified store of value overall. So the potential in the future is almost limitless. And that's why we believe in the technology that supports it and believe in the future for Bitcoin as well.
Do you think the regulation can slow the development of Bitcoin and the whole blockchain industry?
It really depends on how the regulation is implemented. Here at OKX, and we welcome regulation. We want to work with regulators and ensure that not only are we operating in a compliant manner where the jurisdictions we operate are, but we also believe that regulation should support the sort of the genesis of this industry, which is the technology, right? Ensuring that the technology is regulated in a way that does not stifle innovation, right? Provides consumer value, but also protections in the ways that regulators see fit. So we love to work with regulators to ensure that the insiders, the voice of those who are within this industry are represented. But I do think that proper regulation can actually help to drive adoption and growth overall, and we welcome that.
And protect the retail users.
Of course, and protect retail users, protect the users who are operating in the institutional sector. Regulation overall is, if implemented well,
Yes.
thoughtfully, it is very, very much a welcome change.
Can you tell me something about what you think about the CDBCs?
I think it's again, the technology has shown a really novel way to create value. Central banks are starting to recognize that implementing a blockchain or a ledger technology is a more efficient way to manage things like quantitative easing, QT, and also understand the flows coming in and out of the economy. So as a mechanism and as a lever to use, I think CBDCs will become a very important part of government monetary systems. However, I would say that it is something to be cautious of as well at times, to understand the implications of programmable money in the hands of governments. We have to be conscious of how that's used. So we would demand transparency and understanding how a CBDC is implemented. But overall, I do believe that there would be a trend towards CBDCs in some of the biggest governments and monetary systems in the world.
Thank you. Do you have use case for NFTs?
So at OKX, we are known as a centralized exchange, but we do have a wide array of products in the DeFi and Web3 space. We have an NFT marketplace. We have our OKX wallet, which now supports 50 chains. And we very much are creating a marriage between the CeFi and DeFi experience within the OKX app and our website. So for NFTs overall, we support the NFT ecosystem. We love the development. That's everything's happening from layer 2, of course on Ethereum, layer 2 ecosystems like Arbitrum and Optimism, and of course other L1s like Solana, which has a great NFT ecosystem. I think the utility of NFTs, moving forward is going to be a focal point. You can see it as an incentive to drive community action. But also there's an idea of what this token standard will evolve to when you think about digital collectibles, gated access to content. Recently we saw Spotify experimenting with gated playlists to provide artists the ability to tokenize or provide access to specific content on Spotify for their NFT communities. So I think NFTs have proven themselves to be quite a novel experiment, and we're still finding the right use cases. But at OKX, we fundamentally embrace the NFT space, and we think it's going to continue to grow.
What about your thoughts for NFT in blockchain gaming? We know that companies like Microsoft spent 60 billions to buy another development software companies to integrate all of the blockchain gaming and maybe one day in the Metaverse.
Yeah, I mean, GameFi and blockchain-based games represent a huge market opportunity. The use case for gaming is very well established, and the communities there are also very, very strong. And NFT or digital collectible, or however you want to consider the technology in terms of how it's used, lends itself very well to the medium of gaming, purely through the idea of creating a value chain or value exchange between digital goods. Me and myself, I was a gamer growing up. I never, always wanted to go out and level up faster by picking up an item and being able to get that item, perhaps paying for it. And also as a gamer, when you are such at a high level and you earn certain items, being able to tokenize those and exchanging that for value creates an entirely new economic incentive to continue to game. So I think it's still, of course, early stages. We've seen the sort of early P2E gaming explosion with Axie Infinity and others. That was a really novel exploration. I think what we're heading towards now with GameFi is more mature, where you mentioned, AAA studios thinking about how they integrate NFTs into their games. I do expect GameFi to be one of the biggest growth areas within the NFT space moving forward, and should be next 3 to 5 years a massive opportunity for.
Do you think we can see kids millionaires?
Kids millionaires, for sure. I think there are plenty of them out there already, but I think you'll start to see. Well, one is interesting because you'll see younger gamers embracing digital economies more readily than us. You look, I think Roblox being a good example of how digital economies or these digital ecosystems are growing so rapidly, where most kids in what we call Gen Alpha now are asking for Roblox bucks instead of real dollars for Christmas and for the holidays. So they want to buy digital goods instead of physical things. So I think we're going to see a generational shift, and for sure we'll see a lot of millionaires who are younger than the age of 18, I imagine.
Thank you. What is Metaverse?
What is Metaverse? Oh, that's a great question, right? I think it's a bit conflated between a few different ideas. When you fundamentally think of the Metaverse as it was designed, early noveling from Asimov and others, it was basically a space that socially connects you in a digital realm, right? Where Metaverse is evolving to is up for definition, I still think. When we think about a Metaverse and what that could be, it's really figuring out ways to create novel connections in a social physical environment. So for us, as we explore Metaverse, we want to support projects who are building Metaverse experiences. We want to support NFT-gated communities who are entering into Metaverse experiences. And as it goes, we'll find at some point in the future what Metaverse was defined as. Hopefully it will be an open, interoperable digital world. That's what we believe. But there are a lot of different ways the Metaverse may end up coming to life.
And the last question is
Sure.
About one new trend, real estate tokenization.
Sure.
Do you think that real estate tokenization can unlock this 200 trillion value of the market, and we can see one very dynamic tokenized market in the future?
Depends on how far in the future we're talking. But I do think that, again, the sort of novel implementation of blockchain technology can fundamentally change the value systems that exist. However, real estate is one of the oldest markets in the world. There are very, very well established models that exist today. So I don't see tokenization of real estate just by creating the technology will drive adoption. I do think there will be time that it takes for these models to be adopted. Is it possible? Yes. Do I expect it to happen in the next few years? Probably not.
So that means we have to wait for the big rates to be ready for tokenized.
Exactly. I mean, I think we're talking about generational technology, right? As I mentioned, like Gen Alpha, the younger teenagers these days, they're growing up with digital experiences at the core of social interaction. They're growing up with blockchain. They're growing up with crypto. That generation, I do imagine, will be much more open to models that are blockchain-based, tokenized-based, than perhaps the existing folks who are managing these systems today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Sure, of course. Thank you, Dimitar.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.